Well, hi there, and welcome along to Jump to It here on irishracing.com. We are discussing all things Cheltenham. As ever, I'll be in the company of betting expert Stephen Harris. We're going to be looking through all 7 races at Prestbury Park, a whistle stop tour. Now, Stephen, how have things been in your household? Have they been as exciting as they have been in number 10 Downing Street over the last couple of days?
Yeah, there's been lots going on, Ed, hasn't there, with Boris and Rishi and Truss leaving. When I first saw you today, I thought, "Good Lord, you must be in court again." But no, it's the Cheltenham meeting, isn't it? It's your favourite time of year. The shirt and tie comes out of the wardrobe. Fantastic racing, great to have Cheltenham back. And the 3 words "jump season proper" are the most overused in the whole calendar. Everyone's been saying it for about the last 3 months, haven't they? But finally, it looks like we're going to get some rain and the field sizes have held up particularly well at Cheltenham and at Aintree over the weekend.
Well, funny you should say that. Yeah, I mean, the ground, at the time, we were recording this on Friday, before Friday's racing. The ground officially good to firm, good in places. Some of the quickest ground on record for this meeting. However, at the time of recording, I do look out my window now, it is starting to absolutely lash it down. So we are shooting a little bit in the dark. We'll get that asterisk and that proviso out there early doors. It's very quick ground at the moment. There is up to 7 millimetres forecast throughout the Friday. As I said, it is raining at the time of recording, but we're going to work on the assumption, I suppose, Stephen, it's going to be a blend of good and good to firm ground. I can't see it turning that soft by the time we head to Saturday.
No, I mean it's something. It must. I say to punters, Ed, must watch the early races because Cheltenham is a massive track bias place when either it's overwatered or they get sudden rain. And there's not many jockeys who are usually aware of it. On the hurdle course, you want to be wide. I mean, it very, very quickly gets churned up that inside. Now, we're talking about good, fast ground at the moment, but if you do get the rain over the next couple of days that looks likely, then there could easily be quite a big track bias there. And it's something to look out for, especially.
Indeed. Keep your eyes on the weather, but we're going to work to the assumption it's a blend of good to firm or there or thereabouts. Right, let's kick off with the 130. Novice hurdle action. A couple of yards shy of 3 miles, I think it's fair to say. We got 8 going to post for this assignment. Shearer is pretty popular for the Paul Nicholls and Adrian Heskin combination. St. Palais for Richard Bandy. Could be the joker in the pack here at around the 92 mark. Wrexham for last year's winning combination, or last year's winning trainer, I should say. John McConnell around 5s. Then you're looking 6s. Perhaps bigger the rest. How are we working this race out then, Stephen?
Well, this is a difficult race to assess. First of all, there's 8 runners, which is usually very punter friendly. But Music Drive is engaged to run in the 2:45 at Cheltenham on Friday, so I suspect, and it is still a runner at this time of recording, so we're going to get left with 7, which makes the race a lot less appealing. The top one from Ireland is probably the standard setter. It's very hard to compare the form lines that Wrexham's achieved with the form that the UK runners have achieved. But obviously, maximum respect. He's one of those, if he's sort of 15:08 popping on, you know that today's the day and he's very strongly fancied. If he's a much bigger price, that would probably be a negative. I thought the interesting one was probably Shearer, who's a smooth traveller, who's often threatened more than he's delivered off the bridle, I think it's fair to say. But he's only had a handful of runs over hurdles. Paul Nicholls hitting form now, and he was really impressive the other day, all right, in an egg and spoon race at Worcester, but he won on the bridle. And the runner-up, Red Happy, who seems to run every 2 days, has come out and won over fences since. So that form's had a minor boost for what that's worth. I thought he was probably the most interesting UK runner, Shearer. He's fit. He's a now horse. He won't mind if it rains, and he should go well. The one who could be the fly in the ointment, Serious Operator. He was really impressive first time out, and I'd say that Lucinda Russells have generally been needing a run, but he didn't. I was quite taken with that. The only thing to say, and we've said this between us many times, generally speaking, the northern form is at least a stone inferior to the southern form, and they're usually sunk without trace when they come down to these kind of meetings. But he's one to watch out for, probably be a chaser in time.
Yeah, fascinating little race, isn't it? As you say, out of the field, excuse me, they're all last time out winners. So that kind of shows the competitiveness of this. Lots of horses on an upward curve. But Shearer to hit the target for Stephen at the time of recording, best price 7-2 to land the odds in the opener to proceedings on Saturday at 1:30. Right, on to the 205. Got handicap chase action over 3 miles and the 1 furlong. 10 declared to run here. Best part, £32,000 on offer to the winner. The Hollow Ginge been very popular throughout the week as your 7-2 market leader. Now, Tully Beg is in here, but again, Tully Beg is due to run on Friday. We're recording this before Friday's card, so the complexion of this race could change dramatically. Are you with the Hollow Ginge, Stephen, or even allowed for the fact Tully Beg might not turn up? Is there something in here at bigger prices you think perhaps the market is overlooking?
Well, I must admit, Ed, I did my selections for this meeting yesterday, and I was looking at the Hollow Ginger, and he was 6-1, and I thought that is probably a very fair price. I mean, he has shortened up in very illiquid and weak markets. He could easily be 5 or 6-1 on Saturday if they all run. Although, as you say, Tullybeg probably won't. The Hollow Ginger is extremely well handicapped now. He lost his way last season. The last couple of runs means he's several pounds lower now starting out. This is a very valuable race that Twiston Davis would have targeted. He has only won twice over fences. I think it's from 16 runs. And that's basically because he's a very hard ride who makes mistakes. But he's down to such a low mark. If he can put in a clean round of jumping, Sam Twiston Davis knows him really well. He'll be niggling away at him, getting him motivated, driving him into those early fences. He will not be stopping up the hill. He's a thorough stayer. He's run well at this track in the past. I think he's the absolute standout contender. I'm just mortified to see that he's now 7-2, having thought he'd be 6 or 7-1. But for me, I think he's going to be hard to beat if he can get into a rhythm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fair to say. The only downside, I was going to say to it, in the price now, would be forming the Nigel Twiston Davis team, Stephen. It's something we were talking about off air. They usually start September, October in absolutely scintillating form. There's that good Perth meeting, isn't there? Which was 2 or 3 weeks ago, which he usually goes up to and mops up. I think he drew a blank. Only had one winner in the last, one winner in October, if my stats serve me right. It's all gone very quiet for Twisted Davis. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just ground, waiting for the big guns to come out? Or do you think you can read too much into these trainer stats and it's only got to take him to far in a double and then all is forgiven?
Yeah, I mean, no, I think that's a very good point. I don't think you can read too much. I'm massively, especially at this time of year, I think trainer form's probably the most important thing, to be honest with you. And I suspect with Twiston Davis, as you say, he usually milks that Perth meeting, doesn't he? He usually has 5 or 6 very heavily supported favourites, and most of them win. But they didn't this year. And I think basically it's probably something, again, we were talking about off air, that these horses have not got on the grass. Now, all these big yards have all got all-weather gallops, but they only go at a certain pace on them. They're not doing flat-out, full galloping, and they're not 100% fit. And I suspect Twiston Davis probably hasn't been able to get them on the grass at all, like Henderson, like Henry Daly, like Paul Nicholls, like Dan Skelton. A lot of them have just been probably, whereas first time out you'd think they'd be like 90, 95% fit, a little bit of improvement. I think they've probably been like 60, 70% fit, and a lot of them have run badly of Twiston Davis. The only thing I'll say with the Hollow Ginge is they know him well. He's not like a baby. He's not 4 years old or anything. He's going to be fully wound up for this. If they can get him fit, he will be. It's a very valuable prize on a Saturday. They know what he is. They know he's well handicapped. I'd be amazed if he wasn't fit. I'm not saying he'll definitely win, but I think this one will be fit, you know.
Yeah, the market is, as I say, it's been very confident in regards to his claims all week. I thought this was a bit of a head scratcher. Potentially the Wolf, I thought was an interesting one off 138 for the Ollie Murphy team. Has had the wind operation. The horse could put his best foot forward. I thought he's entitled to go well at 8-1, but no real convincing views in this. I thought it was a bit of a muddling affair. On to the 140. Now I'm going to kick off with this one. I think Pied Piper's the best horse and he wins. To be honest with you, beating 2.5 lengths in the Triumph Hurdle. Probably the easiest winner I've ever seen on Cheltenham Trials Day if you go back to January when he went round on the absolute schnaff. Now, Pied Piper and Night Salute are clearly closely matched on the entry run. And my gut feeling is perhaps Night Salute may just be better on a flatter track with wins at Donny, Kempton, and obviously in that controversial win against Pied Piper at entry. Although Night Salute has won at Cheltenham. Just wonder whether he may be suited to more of a speed test. So Pied Piper for me, even money. I think that's fair about a horse beating 2 lengths in a Triumph Hurdle. Had that run at Royal Ascot. What about you, Stephen? Are you going to take me on?
Yeah, I think no, I agree with you. I completely agree. I think Pied Piper is the standout contender here. He has shortened up a bit, but I think he's going to be a very, very popular horse, particularly if the ground stays sort of goodish, which it looks
Yeah,
like it perhaps will, or even good to soft. I mean, for me, Knight Salute, who's trained by a yard, Milton Harris, is absolutely flying. I think he's had 60
yeah,
winners already through the summer months. He's bumming along. I mean, but Knight Salute was one of those horses. He managed to win 6 of his 7 starts over hurdles last season. But my thoughts about juvenile hurdlers tend to be, especially when they've had a lot of racing, is the following season they can sink without trace, because he is not going to be a Grade 1 horse, Knight Salute, in my opinion, this season on these terms. He's going to be really hard to place. He's going to be too high rated to get into the sort of top handicaps, and I suspect they're going to run him in races that he probably can't win. So I think he's a horse I'm inclined to be against this season, because I think there's no improvement to come. He hasn't got any scope. He was red hot, running every week last winter, and he was a terrific advert for Milton Harris. And he beat Pied Piper, of course. They run together. Did they dead heat, actually? I'm wrong about that, aren't I?
yeah. It was the
I
one.
think they
Yeah,
dead heated
with
when
the
they met.
Pied Piper got it. Knight Salute got it in the steward's room, didn't he, at
That's
Aintree?
right.
But yeah,
That's right. So they're closely matched on that. But I think the difference is Pied Piper is a lightly raced, high class horse who's got a lot more improvement to come this season. He's done it at Cheltenham. He's a very smooth traveller, ridden by a genius in Jack Kennedy. I mean, I would love to have a match bet Pied Piper against Knight Salute, on the spreads, because I do think Knight Salute is a horse who's going to be extremely hard to place this season. There is one other interesting runner, Dr. Parnasius, who
yeah.
again struggled on his last 2 starts, but looked very promising early on. Some of Dan Skelton's have been needing the run, but they're beginning to let the big guns out. I would imagine Dr. Parnassus will be pretty straight. He's unexposed. He could be the sort with a bit more scope and upside. So maybe 6 to 1. He might be the main danger, but I think Pied Piper is probably one of the better bets of the weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, I've very much got Dr. Parnassus in my notebooks when he goes up in trip in the
Yeah.
spring. Something like the not that I'm thinking far ahead, but something like the Coral Cup, I could easily see him ending up in by the time we come around to the Cheltenham Festival. But do keep your eyes
Definitely.
on Dr. Parnassus. I got a feeling there's a big one in him this season, even if it's not at Cheltenham on Saturday. Right, we're moving on to the 3:15. We've got handicap chase action over the 2 miles here. 7 declared for this assignment. Now, one of the absolute success stories in recent times would be Clear the Runway, who's won 5 on the bounce. It's quite remarkable, isn't it, Steve? I mean, you go back and
Yeah.
look through this horse's form. We're discussing some of the horses you're running at the Cheltenham Festival back in March, like Editor to Geek, for example. Back in March, Clear the Runway was winning at Southwell off 111. Um, quite absolutely
Hmm.
crazy, really. Now swimming with sharks, but just keeps winning. I mean, can you see it 6 wins on the bounce for this one?
No, I don't fancy him. I
Right.
think he is a summer horse. I don't fancy him. He returned
Okay.
from a few months off in September, and he won a race at Worcester, beating Elios Dor, which is perfectly respectable summer form. But the Elios Dor got in a pace duel that day, and they all stopped, and it made Clear the Runway look extremely impressive. It was a last man standing job. He ended up coming home, I think, by 10 lengths. Now he's only gone up 7 for that. Now in days gone by, he might have gone up a stone, but the handicapper's learnt a little bit from the summer jumps, and he doesn't tend to whack them quite as much as he did. But that being said, this is a much better race, and I would be surprised personally if Clear the Runway is good enough. He's one of those horses I'll probably be looking to oppose, win, and place. It's a dangerous race, this, Ed, isn't it? I know, because we agree here again,
Yeah.
actually, with Editor de Jeet. I think Editor de
Yeah.
Jeet will make all here, and I think he'll have them in all sorts of trouble after a mile, because this is his course and distance. He's a brilliant jumper. He goes a really strong gallop from the tape. I think he'll be 3 lengths clear, eking out those sort of half lengths on decent ground over every fence. And the boy who's riding him, Niall Houlihan, is an excellent jockey. He takes off a very valuable £3. And I think at around sort of 4 to 1, Editor de Jeet should go really well. The key is the first couple of fences. Hopefully, he'll get an uncontested lead, in which case I think he'll take plenty of stopping. Gary Moore, by the way, been quiet, had a quiet summer, didn't run a lot, but he has had 4 winners in the last fortnight, and I think they're coming right. And again, this is a valuable race. I think there's over £31,000 to the winner. He will be 100% fit for this.
Yeah, indeed. Editor Jeet, I'm in full agreement with you. As you say, Niall Houlihan claiming 3. County Waterford's Niall Houlihan loves bacon and loves cabbage, apparently. That's all I could find out in his fact file. Hopefully that will get the job done in this assignment. But as you say, terrific form at Presby Park, Editor Jeet. Form figures 114 at
Mm,
Cheltenham. That tells you pretty much all you need to know. That 4 coming in very deep ground in the Grand Annual. But also, on the kind of wider point here, Stephen, I do agree with you. Editor de Jeet will go forward, try and run them ragged. And I was looking at Clear the Runway and a few of his performances, including at Worcester last time out. Clear the Runway won in the end with plenty in hand, but made 1 or 2 errors at fences, which I think you could afford to hit at Worcester. But if
mm,
you make that type of error at Cheltenham fence, you could come a cropper. And they, with Editor de Jeet in this field, they're going to go like the absolute clappers. So I
definitely.
just wonder will get to have his cup. Nothing against the horse. I mean, it's been phenomenal. It really
Mm,
has the success. But again, this is very strange. I'm in agreement with you again, Stephen. Clear the Runway
mm.
is the market leader. I think we're both taking him on. Editor de Jeet, I think, is the value at 7-2. The Widowmaker would be the one I think is the dark horse here. I get a feeling there might be other targets later on in the season for this 8-year-old, but he's definitely a horse for Joe Tizard, who I think could scoop a nice pop this season. Right, on to the easiest race of the lot, the 350, the Potemps Network Handicap Hurdle. We all know the kind of story here. Haven't they changed the? I should know this, but I don't. And the qualifying criteria for Potemps qualifiers become top 4 now instead of top 6 in terms
I
of
think
placing
so.
to
Yeah,
qualify for the festival. Yeah, I think
they've
it's
they've
top
tinkered
4
with
now.
it. I mean, to be honest, these races were and probably still are a complete minefield because a lot of them
Yeah,
were used by connections just to jog round and have a run, try and get down a few pounds, and you know, it's hard to put this politely, but they probably weren't particularly fancied to run. They weren't going to run well, whatever happened. They were very difficult races to assess, and I mean, I quite like these sort of 18, 16, 17 runner handicaps because you get the extra places, and sometimes they're really good betting races for punters. That the place terms are very much in your favour. I'm not so sure that that's the case with these sort of races, but the one I like was Botox Has, but I'm disappointed again with the price
mm,
because I'm sure he was like 14 or 12 the other day, and I'm now looking at sort of 8. But I would imagine he'll be a double. It almost looks sort of 8-1 the field on Betfair. I'm sure it'll be at least that. Botox Has was a winner at Cheltenham in 2020. He's liable to be fit. Hopefully, he'll be with us and doing his best. He was a very game winner at Fontwell at a big price when we last saw him out,
yeah, the
which was
National
back in
Spirit, wasn't it?
February. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
big price, and the ground had eased a bit, which could happen again here on Saturday by 350. But he's got a good attitude. He's not had that many runs. He's still improving, and he's liable to be fit. And I think Cheltenham will suit him. Fontwell, as you know, that stiff uphill finish. It was hard work there,
yeah.
and his mark hasn't really changed that much as a result of that. The handicapper took
Gone
a
up a
dim
pound.
view of the
Yeah,
form. Perhaps lightly, perhaps rightly, in fact, what he achieved. But as I say, he's a scrapper, a grinder. Jamie Moore's booked. I think he'll run really well. But he is one of those, a bit like Hollow Ginge. I was thinking, well, he's going to be 10 or 12-1, but actually, it looks like it's
yeah.
going to be 7 or 8 maybe. So perhaps the juice has gone out of his price a touch. What did you like? It looks a really trappy race.
Yeah, it does, as you say. I don't want to get don't want to get solicitors on my back, but as you say, you almost at some of these races you don't want to win too well because you smoke your mark with
Mm.
perhaps March in mind if that is the way you are thinking. I was going to throw a few pennies each way here. Horse number 9, Ask Dylan, Fergal O'Brien, Jack Hogan, very promising young claimer on board. The Fergal O'Brien team are flying now. Ask Dylan has been on a bit of a winless run, shall we say. But the horse is a huge price. He's 33-1, there or thereabouts. His last win, funny enough, came at Cheltenham, and that was off an £8 higher mark. But he slipped down to 136 here. So as I said, he's well treated in old form. The yard are flying. He's actually tied in quite closely with Botox Has from the 3 mile race. Was it Cheltenham's December meeting last season, which Kansas City
Mm.
Chief won, who runs again here today. Botox Has was second. And third on that occasion was Ask Dylan, who does get a £10 pull with Botox Has at the weights. But as you say, in terms of the way their trajectories have been going, Botox has been on the upgrade, landing that huge pot at Fontwell, beating Bring Up a Storm. Whereas with Ask Dylan, say recent form hasn't been great. But you're getting 33-1. You're getting a horse who's won at Cheltenham in the past. you're getting a horse who's now half a stone lower than when he was last in the winner's enclosure. So that type of price, I will take my chance each way. Right, on to the 425. The Jim Wilson Memorial Novices Chase. Only the 5 going to post. I think it's a pretty smart 5, it has to be said, though. You can kind of make a case for pretty much all the field in some shape or form in here. I mean, how are you kind of summing this one up, Stephen?
Personally, I don't think this is a betting race for me. All Irish trainers. The market's going to be a fantastic guide. My selection was Life in the Park. Henry de Bromhead had a welcome winner the other day, and this one was a really impressive winner from the front on chasing debut, making all the running, jumping a little bit to the right, but warming to his task, running on well, lightly raced, improving. But by coincidence, did fall in his only point to point. But there was nothing wrong with his jumping first time out. He's likely to improve a bit fitness wise. Good ground or good to soft ground, if that's where we're at by Saturday, late on Saturday. No problem at all. I think Rachel Blackmore, who was on board for that seasonal reappearance, is injured at the moment. So O'Keefe's booked. That's no bad thing. He's a good jockey. Life in the Park looks the lone front runner. I don't think Chemical Energy will front, so could be extremely hard to get past. But this is one of those races, Ed, they'll declare for one of these, and the market will probably look very different to how it does now. It's basically an Irish novice chase. I don't think Art Approval is good enough. So one of the Irish big guns will win. A good race to watch for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we've got Ashtree Meadows declared at Cheltenham on Friday and also win on Saturday. So, all in all, a bit of a messy race. But I probably would go with Life in the Park on balance, as you say, Stephen. Hard to have any strong views on that one. One which I know you've always got strong views on are bumpers, Stephen. We've got the finale on the card at 5 o'clock. A good field. 15 of them. Some really expensive purchases. You start looking through the sales catalogue here. Few horses in here north of £200,000 lining up. I mean, do you get involved in these? Are these notebook types of races? Do you listen to the pub whispers, the Twitter rumours, or do you just sit them out totally?
I don't have a bet personally. If it's a big meeting like the Cheltenham Festival or Aintree, where the champion, I don't mind trying to be a bookmaker and lay the front ones, hoping for a miracle, because they're all unexposed horses. This is a cracking race to watch and not to bet
Yeah.
in. The one I can say that perhaps is the most interesting is Christian Williams' Ironica de Tay, who actually they went to €210,000 to buy. Now I'm going to have to look and get this pronunciation corrected. I know we get picked up on when we get things wrong in French. A newcomer's bumper at Senons Poyance 12
It's very
months
good.
ago. Showing a really good attitude to win there. But 210, I mean, Christian, who basically started off with a handful of horses training on the beach down in deepest Wales. I think he's now got sort of the best part of 80, and he's got some really big owners joining ranks, and he's got some lovely young horses that he's going to bring along slowly and gradually. I mean, whether Ironica de Tay will be good enough to win this first time, that's anyone's guess, but definitely one to keep an eye on. Jack Tudor, who's one of the best jockeys riding, and for some reason doesn't get the rides with the big yards, is booked. He's a jockey to very much follow over the next few years. I thought about a year ago, he started riding for the late Queen horses for Henderson and got a few rides with Henderson, but that seems to have sort of slipped away. He's a really, really good jockey, Jack Tudor, and one to watch out for. But from betting point of view, not a betting race, but definitely a good race to watch. The only thing to say, just quickly, these Cheltenham bumpers, it's like a dog track, isn't it? They come spinning around that last bend at 90 degrees. You know, there's often all sorts of carnage. I don't think they're particularly good educating tools for these young horses at times, especially that champion bumper. It's like Dodgems, isn't it? Every season coming down that hill.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Actually, I was listening to some pre-season comments from Nicky Henderson, and he just said, yeah, generally bumpers not races he likes, especially early season ones as well. He tries to avoid them if he can. So, as you say, there's more than one way to train a horse. It'd be fascinating to see how these horses get on. But most importantly, Stephen, what I'm sure all Jump to It viewers will be pleased with is your summer evening French lessons have improved your linguistic skills in that department no end. So, the future looks bright.
You've got to be careful because all these things are on YouTube, and you get absolutely rinsed. I mean, my French is diabolical. My German's probably better, but no, it's embarrassing, isn't it? I'm often embarrassed, and people do spot these things. When you get something badly wrong, you're not allowed to forget it.
Well, as long as you don't call a plutard a plus tard again this
Yeah,
season,
that was
I'm
one of
sure the
them. Yeah,
trolls will
yeah.
be keeping their distance on the social media circles. Right, that's a through the card look for Cheltenham. Now it's time to nail the colours to the mast for our tips of the week. Right then, Stephen, let's get involved as we usually are with our nap, our value pick, and our long shot at Presby Park on Saturday, please.
Yeah, I'll spin through all three of them, Ed. My nap is in the 3:15 at Cheltenham on Saturday. Editor de Gite, we've already discussed it. He's a bold front runner, a brilliant jumper with a great record over 2 miles at Cheltenham. I really like Houlihan taking off £3. I think he'll make all the running, and I don't fancy Clear the Runway. So that's one to play back if Clear the Runway wins. We'll have got that completely wrong. But I think he's probably around 4-1 on the exchanges. I think he'll soon lead, and he's a brilliant jump around here. My value angle runs in the 205. The Hollow Ginge, brilliantly handicapped now. He's slumped down the weights. He's a Cheltenham horse. He takes loads of driving. Sam Twiston Davis knows him well. He's sure to be fit with the prize money on offer. And I think he'll pick these off up the hill. Hopefully he'll drift back out. I suspect he's been tipped up elsewhere because he's halved in price in the week. But hopefully we'll get 5 or 6-1 about him on Saturday. And finally, the long shot in the 350. Botox has fit and well after a break. Very game winner at Fontwell, winning form at Cheltenham in the past. Again, the price seems to have sort of evaporated in the last 24 hours, but these Saturday races, they're very illiquid markets until the day. I think Botox has will be double figures by the off, and at that, I'll definitely have him winning.
Fascinating. Yeah, you say 3 interesting selections there. We were kind of singing from the same hymn sheet on a lot of them, weren't we? So for my 3, I've gone with Pied Piper as the nap. The only thing I'm hoping is that as I look out the window and the rains continue to wash away my garden, I'm hoping it doesn't get too soft there, but I think we're still going to be looking at good ground or there or thereabouts. And Pied Piper is a class act, 3rd in the Triumph Hurdle, won here on Trials Day. I think he might just have too much for his old foe, Night Salute, back at this track. Editor de Gite, I agree with you. Essentially, we're both taking on the anti-post, the long-term favourite for that, who's on the 6-timer. But yeah, Editor de Gite loves Cheltenham. I think he'll get the job done again. And then, yeah, I'm going for a proper long shot in the per temps hurdle. Dillon, as I flagged up, recent form has been woeful, but the yard are flying. Jack Hogan claims 7, and the horse is £8 lower than when he was last in the winners' enclosure, which, funny enough, came at Cheltenham. So there's back form to make a case for him at least at 25-1. Right, that pretty much wraps things up. Before we go though, Stephen, you got much planned? You're not making it down to Presby Park, are you? You got more important matters in the Harris household this weekend?
Well, I think it's we've lost Wincanton actually on Sunday, haven't we?
Yeah,
But Aintree on Sunday's a belting good card, and they're going to get the rain by the look of it. They really
Old
do
Roan
need
Chase, yeah.
the old Roan Chase. Really good racing there, and obviously going to watch Cheltenham Friday and Saturday. Really does feel like the jump season is warming up now, Ed. Finally, after a bit of a slow start.
Yeah, indeed. It's a good job you mentioned that Aintree card as well. I mean, that should be an absolute cracker. We said we're, at the time of recording, hadn't got the decks for the old Rome, but the likes of Hitman, Do Your Job were entered, weren't they? Jamie Snowden's yard, who been at 4 Jump to It, got a couple entered in Garlaw, Soldier of Destiny. So he's going to be making a late call with both of those, seeing what the weather is doing, etc. up in Liverpool. As you say, it really is a sparkling weekend of racing. The focus here, of course, on Cheltenham for their card. But many thanks for watching. And whatever you're on, best of luck. Please do gamble responsibly. And of course, don't forget to check out irishracing.com for all the latest news, views, features, and stable tours, both sides of the Emerald Isle, which you'll find on the social media circles as well. As ever, my thanks to Stephen Harris for all his input. Don't forget to check out all his tips on bettingexpert.com. Thank you for watching at home, and we'll see you again soon.